Gryphon is a family-owned North American motorcycle protective apparel brand with a long history in the motorcycle industry. Gryphon offers CE Level 2 protection in the back, shoulders, and elbows. The armor is pliable to move with you for a comfortable and safe ride. Gryphon offers a wide range of products for men and women, mesh, transition, and four-season jackets in textile and leather. We offer thermal-lined riding pants, rain gear, and gloves. Gryphon is focused on style, function, and protection for our fellow riders. Check us out at www.gryphonmoto.com.
Hey there, everybody. How's it going? Welcome back to another great episode of On the Throttle with Jacqui Van Ham and my buddy Josh over here, bringing you all of the news going on out here in motorcycle and power sports. We've got a couple really interesting stories for you today. As always, if you missed any of our previous episodes, however, which I don't know why you would, but in case you did, you can always go back down thread on the Facebook page or over on the YouTubes and find all of our previous episodes. This will be our official episode number 41. So you've got 41 shows to get caught up on if you're brand new to the show, and you can always find them out on Facebook or YouTube. Thanks for clicking, liking, and sharing all of our videos. We've got some really interesting stories going on today. I am going to be talking a little bit about it is Christmas in July if you are a vintage motorcycle nerd, and I also have a super odd, rare, very exclusive, very boutique e-bike that is heading into production that might catch your eye. Josh, what do you have going on in your neck of the woods?
So first off, I mean, now that we've got 41 episodes, I think we are binge-worthy, right? I mean, for someone just to go in and watch all, yeah, definitely. So the two things is, the first thing I'm going to cover is, I mean, what would it be if I didn't cover something quirky in terms of a weird motorcycle in dirt land? So I'm going to cover that. And then there was some huge news this week that came out. And then there was some just as equally huge to me that was kind of like, oh yeah, here's a little asterisk at the bottom in fine print. So we are going to dive into the fine print and be like, what is going on?
Oh, I love super top secret news, and I love when they sneak things into press releases, hoping nobody will catch it. And Josh is eagle-eyed did. So I cannot wait to hear about this story. I'm super excited. So my very first story for today, again, this is officially Christmas in July for all of my vintage bike nerds out there, myself included, Josh included, actually because he and I went to this together last year, this event, and that is Mid-Ohio Vintage Days. That's right. It's that time of year. It is VMD time. Mid-Ohio happens every single year in, not surprisingly, the middle of Ohio. It always takes place during, it seems to be the most sweltering weekends of the year. And for good measure, there's always a little bit of rain thrown up on top. And that's why they also refer to it as Mud Ohio. Now, those two things aside, it is the greatest weekend in the entire weekends of all of the weekends of motorcycling, in my not so humble opinion, because it is everything all in one place. It is a huge, it bills itself actually as the largest swap meet in the United States. And I can pretty much attest to it. If you don't have a pit bike or some way to get around it, and you think you're going to do it on foot, woo! I hope you ate your Wheaties, because it is massive. It is a swap meet. It is campgrounds. It is some perhaps partying in the campgrounds. Yes, they do party in the campgrounds. It is also tons of racing. It is road racing. It is dirt racing. It is trials. There are guest speakers. There are vendors. There are food trucks. There is bike shows. Every single bike club that you can imagine shows up and turns out in force and brings some of their best heavy metal and heavy hardware to show off. It is just absolutely spectacular. And if you've ever watched the movie On Any Sunday and wanted to live that for yourself, this is the place to accomplish that. In my opinion, it is the most on any Sunday motorcycle event in the United States, hands down. It is absolutely crazy and wild and tons of fun, and it should be on your radar, and that's why I wanted to talk about it today. Josh, what do you think about Mid-Ohio? I know you're a fan already. I don't even have to ask. You and I both have gone together. We went last year and had a ball.
So I am probably going to go down first thing Friday morning to make sure I do what I can to score any decent deals. The thing that I love about it is, first off, is the swap meet is huge. There is all sorts of stuff to dive off just into the weeds and be like, oh my God, there's 4 of these in the planet and 2 of them are here. How did this happen? The other thing that I love is there's people constantly just riding around there. So it's like this constant moving motorcycle show. And you will see everything from a mint condition Bultaco to a 1990 XR80 that you're like, that is missing spokes. How the hell is that thing moving? So you will see anything and everything there, and it's what makes it great.
Oh yeah, it's everything from like premier top show bikes all the way down to like clapped out barn finds that barely run, but people bring them to either use as pit bikes or to try to sell them there this weekend. For those of you that are watching that are not familiar with Mid-Ohio, by the way, just to also, just to give you a little bit more intel on it, this is currently a very Japanese heavy event.
Yes.
As far as the swap meet goes, just so you know, everything else can be found there. Every other type of bike, Triumph, Norton, BSA, all that stuff is good stuff. But as far as the swap goes, it is quite Japanese heavy versus Barber Vintage Festival, which is very European heavy, just FYI. Occasionally you'll find a little bit of European stuff at Mid-Ohio Vintage Days. Very, 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 very occasionally you might find vintage American stuff, but it is predominantly Japanese stuff, which is super, super cool. And there's always weird stuff and parts and the tool guy, right, Josh? Like I always go visit the tool guy and go pick up rad tools. Anyway, clearly I am over the moon about this event. It is an absolute hoot. You will be sweaty. You will be disgusting. You will smell bad. You will be covered in mud. You will also have made all of your new best friends and you will have had the time of your life. And that happens every single summer in Mid-Ohio at Vintage Motorcycle Days. So that is my first story for today. I had to talk about it and give it a little bit of love because it is just one of my most favorite things. It's one of the very first motorcycle events I ever went to ever. So anyway, that is my first story for today. Josh, what do you got going on in your neck of the woods?
Your excitement in this is palpable. I feel like whatever I'm going to talk about is just not going to touch that. But nonetheless, you guys know how excited I get about weird off the wall kind of bikes and that. Beta has released their 2023 RR-S models. And the -S models basically mean, hey, it's got a license plate on it. These models will be the 350, the 390, the 430, and the 500. They compete pretty close with another, let's say, European brand that you may have known that has a more orangish hue to it. So, but they are very, very different in that because what I love about Beta is they do kind of, they're a boutique bike. It's everything rolls out of the factory doors with what you'd probably want on it if you had your Christmas wish list in terms of a bike. So when you look at stuff like this, this first photo here, you see it's got folding mirrors, similar to like the double take style mirrors in that. So, I mean, this is something that you're, as a dual sport rider, I'm probably going to put on it anyways. It comes from the factory with that. Something else, and I believe we've got that in the next shot here, is for the speedometer on this, it uses a Trailtech Voyager. One of the cool things about this is so Beta doesn't need to go out and do their own electronics and try and figure out how to make their own dashboard. They went to Trailtech to get this done, and one of the awesome things about this is this setup will allow you to put GPS maps in it. So that way, you're not having to build out this ginormous, ridiculous dash like what I've kind of done with my DRZ, which looks just incredibly dumb, and it has a tendency to catch tree branches. This, it's clean, it's crisp, this is what I would dream about if I wasn't so darn cheap. These are the things that I would put on there. This has a diaphragm-style clutch in it. It has 3 different spring options that you can get from the factory on the bike. The big news with this is they are offering traction control on this bike. So one of the really cool things that I think about this, and when you see off-road guys come to road racing, they typically do very, very well because in off-road, it is all about learning how to manage traction. So Beta is doing some of this for you. Now, there's 2 different traction maps, but when you couple those with 2 different engine maps, you essentially have kind of 4 different traction maps that you can use. So is this the future of what's going to end up happening off-road? I don't know. It's kind of cool. I mean, to me, I still love the fact that, it's always kind of fun to be a jerk and throw rocks on your friends, but in the same sense, it's not all that great and it's not all that fast. We're going to talk about this slide and the next one here. If we can go back to that dashboard, Beta also keeps things super simple on their dashboards here to make it just easy. I mean, they've done just a great job with this. Now, typically when someone says BYOB, you think, hey, it's party time. And according to Beta, it is. But BYOB for them is build your own beta. They also announced that coming out, they are going to have basically a factory pre-order program where it used to be years ago, you could order your car with this thing, this thing, this thing, and this thing, but not that. There's all, I have people that get into the weeds about this car had the radio delete, and it also didn't have the trunk map, but it had this color paint. We're not going to get that far with it, but you're going to be able to spec out your bike at the factory. To me, this is so cool. And the fact that these bikes range from $11,499 to $11,799 makes them pretty darn competitive price-wise even. So, all that being said, Jacqui, what are your thoughts on BYOB? Are you going to BYOB or are you going to BYOB?
I would love to BYOB. I would love to bring your own beta. I agree with you. I love this boutique brand. I love their bikes. Yeah. I like that they do 2 strokes and 4 strokes. I like that they mix it up a little bit. I like that they've got really interesting design. They're just very crisp and very, very fresh looking. And I really, really enjoy, like you had mentioned, the dash that's in this. I think that is very, very clever. It's very smart. And it's just a little bit of an elevation of dirt bikes, right? It's not as pared down, stripped down as it could be. It's just a couple little bit more amenities. And I think that that's where the market is going. You know, I think that there's plenty enough stripped down, naked dirt bikes that people can get into and go shred on. I think that it's a really smart move to put a little bit more finish on this, considering that it is going to be street legal and you can slap a plate on it.
Yep. No, and to me, it's all the stuff. Like if I went out and took my DRZ currently and said, I'd want to put this on it, this on it, this on it, this on it. Half the stuff that I would have on my Christmas list is on this bike.
It'd be a beta. I bet you somebody at the beta dealership would love to make you a deal on that, Josh.
Yeah, I know they would. I know they would.
I was hoping you were going to include a picture of the dash that you built for your DRZ, by the way, because it's hilarious. Stay tuned. I'll harass Josh, and we'll see if we can throw it in the comments or something, because it's a real hoot. It's a real Frankenstein show. It's a real showpiece. Anyway, Thank you for bringing up this awesome boutique brand, Josh, and that leads me right into my second story for today. While we are discussing boutique brands, a brand that kind of fell off of my radar after their initial soft launch at EICMA in 2018 that burnt down the internet a little bit for a handful of reasons. One was their prototype design, super modern, super, very, very forward thinking, very, very forward design. The second thing that really grabbed the attention in the headlines when this bike was revealed in 2018 was the price tag. Woo! This is going for over £90,000, and this motorcycle is called the Arc Vector. And again, this started in 2018 and has a bit of a rocky birth and a rocky launch, but the press release this past week, which is why it came back to my attention, is the fact that they're claiming now that they are only 10 short weeks away from production. The Arc Vector is set for production in 10 weeks. They've had the help of a former MotoGP and British Superbike rider James Ellison to help make the final tweaks on it. Coventry-based electric brand Arc, which is in the UK, have confirmed that customer-ready bikes are just 10 weeks away, having now completed their on-track handling tests with former MotoGP star and multiple British Superbike race winner James Ellison. James has worked with us to define the production settings that will go to customers in 10 weeks, said the company's CEO. Exactly what that will look like remains to be seen at this time. However, the company's website states they are due to launch something called the program on Friday, the 29th of July. So right around the corner from now. These bikes are made in Britain. The Vector is an ultra premium performance plug-in with a claimed 436 kilometers, which on this side of the pond is 270-mile range and a charge time of only 40 minutes. So this, I think, is really interesting. It's noted for a handful of different things. For those who are unfamiliar, the Arc Vector uses a carbon front swing arm and hub center steering rather than conventional forks. Although a system not traditionally favored by mainstream manufacturers, Arc say the design allows for increased stiffness and the ability to run steeper steering angles for increased agility on the motorcycle. A little bit more about the backstory of this. With a projected $90,000 price tag back in 2018, the bike attracted attention, investment, and orders. But ARC went into administration in September 2019 when key investors let the company down. Again, on this side of the pond, going into administration means going into bankruptcy. A year later, ARC's founder, former Jaguar Land Rover engineer Mark Truman, rescued the project, buying the assets to revive his dream. Since then, development has continued, reaching the stage now where customers will soon receive their machines. Isn't this absolutely unbelievable? Look at this bike. Now, look, whatever side of this you fall on of the e-bike argument, e-bike discussion, e-bike conversation, you can't look at this and not think that this is incredibly interesting design, super weird and progressive and just super, super oddball, but really, really fascinating, and that there's reasons for it. Again, in order to make the front steering degree a little bit different, it could make the bike turn in faster. It makes it more of a performance bike. And at 90,000 pounds, I would sure hope it hauls the mail and performs and does something. But have no fear. ARC already says that a good handful of these machines are already spoken for. So somebody out here is snapping up 90,000 pound e-bikes. Josh, are you on that list?
I have the 90, just not the 1,000 part. That's the to me. It is gorgeous, and I love the look of it. I look at the front end, and all I can think of is Yamaha GTS. To me, I get what they're going for, and you made this perfect statement in this. For it to be a $90,000 bike, it's got to do something way, way, way different than anything else. To me, though, when I look at Yamaha GTS, when I look at the old BMW telelever system, we're back to forks. They work so well. I mean, it's kind of, so is it a gimmick? Is it going into the future? I don't know. Is this the next step in development? I'm excited to see what happens. We've seen a lot of these come out and go up in smoke and then come out and then go up in smoke. The thing that I love about all these e-bikes, though, is the fact that it's so easy for someone to get in there and shake it up because they're not worried about emissions. They're not worried about so many other things that the big manufacturers have to spend time going through. I like it.
Agreed.
I'm interested to see how it happens.
Agreed. I agree with you. So the e-bike thing and you just nailed it. They are not held to these constraints of traditional motorcycle design. They don't have to worry about where does the exhaust go, where does the great big huge engine go, where does they don't have to worry about these things anymore. So the doors are blown wide open as far as design, and you can see really creative / odd / weird design like this, and it works. But now they just have to get to the finish line, right? They just have to actually produce these things. Well, they're saying they're only 10 weeks away. So we are all going to wait and see what happens with this. But, it feels like you can't swing a dead cat without hitting a new e-bike company nowadays. And I feel like a lot of companies, in my mind, should have been going to the less expensive side of the pendulum. Yep. And these folks are showing there's room up at the top, baby. There's room at the very top of the pile for folks that want to spend that dough and get something that is truly a collector piece and a one-of-one type machine. So what's going on for your second story for today, Josh?
So this is the one that I really want to kind of dive into because it's interesting. So Suzuki released a memo basically saying, hey, we have reached an agreement with Dorna about pulling out of MotoGP at the end of 2022. We will no longer be in MotoGP. And then at the bottom of that, oh yeah, we're not going to do EWC either. Wait, what? I was kind of like, wait a minute here. So EWC is the World Endurance Challenge that Suzuki does, that Suzuki has, let's call it, dominated. In the past 11 seasons, a Suzuki rider has ended up on the top step 7 times. That is, I mean, that's just taking the competition and being like, we gave you 4 of them for laughs and giggles, just so you guys didn't cry. To me, the official announcement cited, and I'm going to read this directly here, a shift away from racing and towards sustainability in their business model as the reason for the exit. So to me, there's a number of things that play into this, and I think when we look at the showroom floors and we look at everything like that, superbikes are no longer in favor. I remember, in fact, we talked about it before the show. There's the stories of in the early 2000s of Matt Mladen going to Suzuki and being like, hey, you should be paying me the same amount as that Carmichael guy because look at how many GSXRs you're selling. When you look, that's not the case anymore. When you walk into a showroom and when you see that Honda has the Navi, the Grom, the Trail 125, and 52 other small bikes, you're kind of like, there is a shift going on here. So as someone that is a race fan, that loves watching racing, I love the technology that comes from it, all the things that kind of go with it, the strategy, and especially in endurance racing, because there's just so many things that go into that. I am super sad to see this news. In the same sense, I see it as a big shift for the industry. And what's going to be interesting is seeing if Suzuki is in front of this or is in an uh-oh position, we'll call it. Because to me, I mean, once again, making the dead cat reference, in the early 2000s, you could not swing a dead cat without hitting a white and blue bike with red accents. I mean, it just, you couldn't do it. That was the pride of every crotch rocket guy out there, was their Gixxer. So to me, when you see stuff like this and you realize that there's no longer going to be factory support from Suzuki in racing like this, it obviously shows that the market is changing. Is Suzuki going to be coming out with stuff that is more geared towards where the market's going, or is this an uh-oh move? We don't know, and time is going to tell. I do like the fact that I'm seeing more people in the industry. I do like that I'm seeing more options in the industry. I'm wondering if Suzuki's like, uh-oh, we missed the Z125, we missed the Grom, we missed a ton of these other things. We need to come out with something really good, is what I'm hoping they're doing. So, I mean, I know you kind of like some of the small bikes too, Jacqui, just because I've always said, so I mean, it's so fun to just run the hell out of something and look down and be like, oh, I'm doing 61. So what are your thoughts?
Well, first of all, I would say I would counter your Grom and say the Suzuki Van is a very cool little machine, and I would love to have one.
Oh, it's totally, now, yes.
That being said, so you're right. So the move away from sport bikes has been happening for quite a while now. The pendulum swing has gone all the way over to Dirtland. We are way deep in adventure bikes. We are way deep in scramblers. We are way deep in tracker type stylings. We are way over in this neck of the woods. But it always seems to swing back. It's not forever. It goes kind of back and forth, I feel like. And so to come out and say, sport bikes are dead, I think that's not a very totally accurate statement, but yes, they are down in sales. You're not totally wrong, but are they dead? Yeah. No. And the thing that I think is interesting though is that we are seeing a little bit of an uptick and resurgence in this country of people paying attention to things like Moto America, which is our pro level, high horsepower race series. I'm seeing a little bit more interest in it for a handful of reasons, one of which is the king of the baggers, whether you want to admit it or not, Josh. People are paying attention to it that normally would not come and go and look at Moto America. So are they going to jump from their, Street Glide to a Gixxer or to a double R? No, of course not. But I do think that more people are looking at and at least paying attention to this sport again in this country. But the numbers are not there. The numbers are very, very, very small. I don't blame Suzuki for dipping out. I don't blame Suzuki for bouncing, but I would say, well, you just said, are they ahead of the curve, or is this the uh-oh moment? It feels a little bit more like the uh-oh moment. It feels like they didn't quite get ahead of all the dirt bike stuff that they needed to be as far as adventure bikes, not dirt bikes, because they've always done dirt bikes, but adventure bikes and things of that category and marketing in that space. They haven't been quite there soon enough and fast enough, and I think the world has just passed them by. But it only takes one manufacturer to dip out of a huge major event, and the rest fall like dominoes. I've seen it happen at several other motorcycling events and motorcycling type rallies. It doesn't take much for one OEM to leave, and then all the rest of them realize that they don't need to be there anymore either. So it's not a good sign. It's not a good day. No. I do not celebrate Suzuki choosing to step out of any type of racing. They've got to do what they've got to do. I do think it's interesting that they throw the environmental green flag under the bus and say that they're dipping out for environmental reasons, even though, yes, hosting racing globally is incredibly bad for the environment. Shipping planes, trains, automobiles, shipping containers full of bikes and stuff and people all around the world. Not a very, very green thing to do. But I don't think that that's actually the reason.
So what's interesting on that, Jacqui, is you saying that it is one of those things where when I read their statement, I read it two ways. Their statement says a shift away from racing and towards sustainability in their business model. Now I'm like, are they talking about
financial sustainability?
And I see both sides of that. Are they talking about sustainability for environmental, and are they talking about sustainability in their business model? The other thing that I see with it too is with sport bikes right now too, is we are to a point where you're kind of superhuman to be taking a leader bike out and wringing its neck. I mean, there's no way to legally ride around in anything but first gear. So the other thing that I see is I'm wondering if there's going to be a little more focus back towards, Suzuki's still got their 125 and Yamaha, Kawasaki have their 400s. Are we going to see a resurgence in those? Because those are a little less likely to I remember years ago, my leader bike days, I thought I should just tape my driver's license to the back of my helmet so they could just take it.
You're not wrong there, my friend. You're not wrong. So yes, you're right. I just heard sustainability and immediately went to
but
the
I
fact
see both
that
sides
they're
of it.
Environmental moment. But I think you're right. I think they mean sustainability as far as a business, as far as keeping the doors open.
We'll have to see.
We're all going to have to wait and see how this all shakes out. Don't you fret out there, fans. We will absolutely be bringing you the news the minute that we hear about it, about any of these changes and big shifts going on in motorcycling for Suzuki and everybody else out here, like we do every single week, bringing you all of the top news and all the inside stories going on in motorcycling and power sports. Thank you so much again for tuning in, everybody. We appreciate each and every one of you for watching. Make sure to go ahead, throw it in the comments. Let us know what you think of the show. Let us know where you're tuning in from. We always love when you guys peek in and say hey. And we will see you next week.